Have you ever stood at the doorway, heart racing, words caught in your throat, knowing this could be the last time you see them, that moment right before goodbye isn't just an ending, it's a chance to leave a mark so deep they'll carry it with them forever. The question is, what will you do with it? Have you ever noticed how, in life, we tend to underestimate the power of simply being present? In a world full of distractions, people rarely stop and give another person their full attention. Most goodbyes today are rushed, muffled behind the glow of a phone screen or lost in the noise of a crowded room. But when you choose to be fully there, no phone in hand, no wandering thoughts, no half-hearted gestures, you create a moment that cuts through all the noise. Presence is rare, and because it's rare, it's unforgettable. When someone feels you are completely present with them, that memory doesn't fade. It burns itself into their mind and heart because so few people in life ever give it. Presence is not about what you say, it's about what you don't say. It's about the eye contact that lingers a second longer, the silence that feels comfortable instead of awkward, and the posture that says, I'm here, I see you, and you matter. Think about it. The words people say to you, they may fade, but the way they made you feel in their presence, that stays. So before goodbye, presence becomes a language of its own. It says, without needing words, this mattered, you mattered. And that is more powerful than any carefully rehearsed goodbye speech you could deliver. Now, presence requires courage. It requires you to face the discomfort of emotions you may want to run from. It demands that you don't escape into distraction, but instead you stay fully. Imagine standing before someone knowing this may be the last time you see them. Every instinct in your body may scream to rush it, to make it quick, to look down, to check your phone, to escape before it hurts too much. But if you do that, what you leave behind is emptiness. What you leave behind is forgettable. True courage is not walking away quickly. It's standing in that fire, looking them in the eyes, and letting your presence say everything your words cannot. Think about the people you remember most in your life. Was it their clever words, or was it how they made you feel when you were with them? Maybe it was the way they listened, the way they didn't interrupt, the way they looked at you like you were the only person in the room. That's the power of presence. It creates a moment so rare that the memory sticks. People may forget the clothes you wore, the words you said, the gifts you gave, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And presence is the root of all feeling, and here's the truth. Presence is a gift most of us never unwrap. We rush through life saying goodbye like it's a chore, not realizing it's a sacred moment. We think we need the perfect words, but in reality, words are cheap when compared to the weight of genuine attention. When you stand before someone and give them the gift of your undivided presence, you give them something no money can buy and no time can erase. You give them yourself, not the distracted half, their version, but the whole authentic you. That is what leaves an imprint on their memory long after you've gone. So when the time comes to say goodbye, don't overthink what you'll say. Don't practice lines like you're preparing for a play. Instead, just be there. Let your presence hold the moment. Let your eyes carry the truth. Let your silence speak volumes. Because presence, real, undeniable soul, deep presence is louder than words, stronger than speeches, and more unforgettable than anything else you could give. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces we overlook in our lives. Most people go through relationships, friendships, and even breakups carrying bitterness, complaints, and unanswered questions. But here's the truth. No, one forgets the person who chooses gratitude when they could have chosen anger. Think about it. Anger burns quick, but gratitude lingers. When you tell someone before goodbye, I appreciate what you brought into my life. It plants a seed in their memory that never dies. Even if you never speak again, even if the story between you has ended, they will carry those words like a quiet echo, reminding them of the good that existed. We often believe gratitude is weakness, like admitting someone else had power over us. But gratitude isn't weakness, it's strength. It takes strength to look at someone who may have hurt you, who may have disappointed you, who may have walked away, and still say, thank you. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for the moments. Thank you for shaping me into who I am today. That takes more courage than bitterness ever will. Anyone can leave angry. Anyone can leave blaming. But not everyone can leave grateful. And that is why gratitude becomes unforgettable. It is rare, and rarity is powerful. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of goodbye. You could remind them of all the pain. You could replay the arguments. You could point out their flaws. But years later, would they remember your complaints? No, they'd blur into the background. What they'd remember is the one thing they didn't expect: the gratitude, the way you chose to highlight the good instead of the bad, the way you chose to lift the moment rather than sink it. Gratitude transforms a goodbye from an ending into a gift, and gifts are carried sometimes for a lifetime. Gratitude also transforms you. When you choose it, you're no longer the victim. You're the author of your own story. Instead of leaving with resentment poisoning your heart, you leave with peace. Gratitude shifts your perspective. It takes what could have been a wound and turns it into wisdom. It takes what could have been pain and turns it into power. Because gratitude isn't just about what you give to the other person. It's about what you give to yourself. You give yourself freedom from bitterness. You give yourself the ability to move forward without carrying the heavy weight of hate. And that freedom is worth more than anything. Think about the times in your own life when someone showed you gratitude. Maybe it was a teacher, a friend, a family member, or even a stranger. Maybe they looked you in the eye and said, "Thank you, you changed me." Didn't that moment stay with you? Didn't it make you stand taller, even if only for a second? That's the impact you can leave on someone else. Gratitude is magnetic. It draws people in and leaves an imprint that outlasts the words themselves. So before goodbye, stop searching for the perfect explanation. Stop rehearsing the perfect last line. Instead, choose gratitude. Say thank you not just for the good times, but for the struggles that taught you strength. Thank them not because they were perfect, but because they were part of your journey. Gratitude doesn't erase the past, it redeems it. It takes the story you lived and frames it in a way that makes you stronger, wiser, and unforgettable in the eyes of the one you're leaving behind. There's a certain power in the way you choose to walk away. Many people, when faced with goodbye, let desperation take control. They beg, they plead, they bargain for another chance, hoping that clinging harder will make someone stay. But desperation doesn't create respect. It creates pity, and pity is not the memory you want to leave behind. When you leave with dignity instead, you create a lasting picture in someone's mind, one of strength, of self-respect, of calmness in the storm. Long after the words are forgotten, the image of how you carried yourself will remain. Dignity is not about pretending you don't care. It's about caring enough for yourself to set a standard. It's about showing that even though the goodbye may hurt, you will not lower yourself to begging for love or attention. When you stand tall, when you speak with clarity instead of desperation, you send a silent but powerful message: I know my worth. And here's the truth. People never forget those who know their worth. They may forget the tears, they may forget the arguments, but they will never forget the person who walked away with quiet strength. Desperation, on the other hand, is loud. It spills out in texts at 2 a.m., in endless phone calls, in words that say, "I'll do anything for you to stay." But here's the problem. Desperation makes you small in the eyes of the person you're begging from. It diminishes your power and replaces it with weakness. And weakness never leaves a legacy, but dignity. Dignity commands respect. Even if the person doesn't say it out loud, deep inside they remember the way you walked away without lowering yourself. That memory stays because it is rare. Most people fall into desperation. Few choose dignity. Think about the people who have walked out of your life. Which ones do you still respect? It's not the ones who begged, who chased, who clung to you so tightly that you could hardly breathe. No, you respect the ones who walked away calmly, who wished you well, who carried themselves like they still believed in their own value. And that's the kind of person you can be, too. When you leave with dignity, you become unforgettable, not because you clung to someone, but because you showed them what strength looks like even in the hardest moments. And dignity doesn't mean you have no feelings. It doesn't mean you're cold or unshaken. It simply means you refuse to let those feelings control how you present yourself. You may be breaking inside, but you still choose to stand tall. That's the power of discipline. That's the mark of maturity, and here's the irony. Sometimes the very moment you stop chasing, the very moment you walk away with dignity, is the moment they realize your value, not because you begged for it, but because you proved it through your actions. So before goodbye, ask yourself this: do I want to be remembered for my desperation or my dignity? One fades into shame, the other leaves behind respect. One makes you forgettable, the other unforgettable. You don't control whether they miss you, whether they call you back, whether they regret losing you. But you do control how you walk away. And how you walk away is the one thing that can never be taken from you. Goodbyes are often treated like funerals for the living. People see them as the end, as final, as a door closing forever. But what if I told you a goodbye could be more than an ending? What if it could be a beginning, at least in someone else's heart? You see, before you walk away, you have a choice. You can leave bitterness, regret, and emptiness behind, or you can leave a seed of hope, of encouragement, of possibility. And that seed, if planted with honesty, will grow long after you are gone. People don't forget those who plant hope in them. They carry it forward, they water it, and in their quiet moments they remember who gave it to them. Hope is powerful because it defies finality. When you tell someone before goodbye, "I believe in you," those words don't die. They echo. When you remind someone of their strength, of their potential, of their worth, you're doing more than speaking. You're building a bridge from the present to their future. Long after your presence is gone, that bridge remains. And whenever they doubt themselves, they will walk across that bridge in their mind, back to the moment when you spoke life into them. That's how a seed of hope works. It doesn't need you to stay. It just needs you to plant it. Too often, people leave in silence, or worse, in anger. They slam the door, they burn the bridge, they leave behind ashes, but ashes don't inspire anyone. Ashes don't give strength. Ashes don't become unforgettable. What becomes unforgettable is the person who leaves you with something to hold on to. A thought, a blessing, a vision for your future. Maybe it's as simple as, "I know you'll do great things." Maybe it's as personal as, "Don't ever forget how strong you are." Maybe it's as spiritual as, "You are meant for more than this." Words like that plant themselves deep. and they grow even when you're no longer there to water them. And here's the thing. Planting a seed of hope doesn't just change the other person. It changes you. When you speak hope into someone else, you rise above bitterness. You rise above pride. You step into a higher version of yourself, one who isn't chained to anger or regret. Instead of leaving behind wounds, you leave behind light. And light doesn't just brighten their path, it brightens yours. By planting hope in others, you remind yourself that endings don't have to be destructive. They can be transformative. They can be moments that prove to both of you that life keeps moving forward, no matter what. Think about the people who once planted seeds of hope in you. Maybe it was a teacher who told you you were capable of more than you believed. Maybe it was a friend who told you to hold on when you wanted to quit. Maybe it was a parent who whispered, "I believe in you," even when you doubted yourself. You never forgot those words, did you? They became part of your identity, part of your strength. That is the kind of gift you can give to someone else before goodbye. Not a gift wrapped in paper, not money, not possessions, but words that take root in the soil of their spirit. So when that moment comes, when the final conversation hangs in the air, don't waste it on anger or pettiness or silence. Use it to plant something that will outlast your presence, a word, a blessing, a reminder, because seeds of hope don't die when you leave. They grow, they bloom, and one day, when they're standing stronger than they ever thought they could, they'll remember exactly who planted it. And that memory will never fade. Forgiveness is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but also one of the most powerful. When someone has wronged you, when they've broken your heart, betrayed your trust, or left you in pieces, every part of you wants to hold on to the pain. You feel like if you let it go, you're letting them off the hook. You feel like forgiving is saying, "It's okay." But forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It means you're choosing not to let it control you anymore. And before goodbye, forgiveness is the most powerful gift you can give, not just to them, but to yourself. Think of unforgiveness like chains. Every grudge, every resentment, every replay of the pain in your mind is another link in those chains. You carry them everywhere you go, dragging the weight of someone else's actions into your future. And when you refuse to forgive, you think you're punishing them, but you're really punishing yourself. They go on with their life, but you remain locked in the prison of bitterness. Forgiveness is the key that sets you free. When you choose to forgive before goodbye, you're not excusing the pain. They'll still have to live with their choices. What you're doing is unlocking yourself from carrying it any longer. Now, forgiveness doesn't always come easy. It's not a snap of the fingers, not a shallow "it's fine." Forgiveness is a process of courage. It requires you to confront the wound, to admit it hurt, to acknowledge what was taken from you. Only then can you release it. But here's the truth. The very act of releasing is what makes you unforgettable. Imagine someone expecting your anger, expecting your bitterness, expecting you to leave with fire in your eyes. And instead, you give them forgiveness. That moment doesn't just surprise them, it humbles them. Because forgiveness isn't weakness, it's power under control. It's saying, "You don't get to define me by what you did. I define myself by what I choose." And forgiveness isn't only about them. It's about freeing your own heart. If you leave with hatred in your chest, it burns long after the goodbye is over. It robs you of sleep, of peace, of joy. But when you forgive, you walk away lighter. You don't carry them into every new relationship, every new opportunity, every new chapter. You release them, and in doing so, you release yourself. That's why forgiveness is freedom. It breaks the cycle, it breaks the weight, it breaks the chain, and people remember those who break chains instead of passing them on. Think about the people in your life who have forgiven you. Maybe it was a friend you hurt, a family member you disappointed, a partner you let down. Didn't their forgiveness shock you? Didn't it soften you? Didn't it stay with you long after the moment passed? That's the kind of legacy you leave when you forgive. You become the person who chose peace over pain, grace over grudges. And even if they never say it out loud, they'll never forget the one who forgave them when they least deserved it. So before goodbye, if there's pain between you, release it. Don't let anger be your final word. Don't let bitterness be your last gift. Let forgiveness be the thing you leave behind, because forgiveness doesn't just close a chapter. It opens a new one. It tells the world you are not defined by what hurt you, but by how you healed, and that kind of strength is impossible to forget. The most dangerous words in life are what if? What if I had said how I really felt? What if I had told them the truth before they walked away? What if I hadn't hidden behind pride or fear or silence? Regret doesn't show up all at once, it creeps in later, in quiet moments when it's too late to change the past. That's why truth matters before goodbye. Because once the door closes, once the silence sets in, the words you didn't say will echo louder than the ones you did. And living with regret is far heavier than living with the consequences of truth. Truth is powerful because it brings clarity. Maybe the truth is that you love them. Maybe it's that you're thankful. Maybe it's that you're hurting. Whatever it is, truth has a way of cutting through confusion. Lies blur memories. Silence creates questions, but truth is solid. It leaves no room for doubt, and people never forget the last truth you leave them with. They may forget the small talk, the casual words, even the goodbyes themselves. But truth carves itself into memory like stone. Of course, truth is risky. It makes you vulnerable. It forces you to step out from behind the mask and reveal what's really in your heart. That's why so many people avoid it. They'd rather play it safe, hide behind pride, or pretend they don't care. But safe words are forgettable. Safe words vanish. Vulnerability, on the other hand, is unforgettable. When you choose truth, even if it scares you, you leave a mark that can't be erased. People may not always like what you said, but they will never forget that you had the courage to say it. And here's the beauty of truth. It brings peace, no matter the outcome. If you tell someone you love them and they don't feel the same, at least you walk away knowing you were honest. If you thank them for the role they played in your life, even if they don't respond, at least you gave them the gift of acknowledgement. If you let them know you're ready to move on, even if they disagree, at least you made your position clear. Truth doesn't guarantee the result you want, but it guarantees freedom from regret. You'll never have to look back and wonder, what if I had said what was in my heart? Think about the moments in your own life where someone told you the truth. Maybe it was raw, maybe it was uncomfortable, maybe it was even painful, but didn't it stick with you? Didn't it shape how you saw them? That's because truth has weight. It anchors a moment in your memory, and when truth comes before goodbye, it becomes the final anchor, holding the memory of you steady in their mind, long after the goodbye is over. So before you walk away, don't settle for polite silence. Don't settle for half-truths. Don't leave the most important things unsaid. Say it, speak it. Let the truth be your final gift. Because at the end of the day, you can live with someone rejecting your truth, but you'll never fully live with the regret of never sharing it. And the person on the other side, they may not remember every detail of your story, but they will never forget the honesty you left them with before you said goodbye. And when that moment of goodbye finally comes, remember this. It is not just an ending, it is a defining moment. How you choose to walk away will echo far beyond that room, far beyond that day. Be present, be grateful, leave with dignity, plant a seed of hope, forgive, and speak your truth, because goodbyes aren't about erasing the past. They're about shaping the memory you leave behind. One day, when they think of you, they won't remember the arguments, the tears, or the silence. They will remember how you stood. They will remember how you carried yourself. They will remember the words you chose and the peace you left behind. That is the power of goodbye. It is the last brushstroke on the canvas of your story with them. So don't waste it. Don't let fear, pride, or anger steal it from you. Use it, shape it, own it. Because if you do these things before you say goodbye, one truth will remain unshakable. They may forget the moments, but they will never forget you.